I feel like I always knew who Godzilla was. I don't have a film necessarily that I remember. I know I've seen clips. I've seen shots of people in Japan running and pointing and screaming, and English speakers dubbing English on top of that. And I just remember that was funny. And I like, vaguely remember images of Godzilla fighting other monsters, and it looked like they're on like Mars or the moon or something. Just things like that I never saw a full film though. So it's really through this film that I got to understand, Godzilla's origin and why he was originally created in 1954, and to be informed of Godzilla through Gareth Edwards and Legendary Pictures for this film is the way I want it. I'm glad I learned about him, and excited to be part of such a historic franchise when you're proud of the piece you're adding to it.
Yeah, I didn't really know too much about it either. Again, knew of the iconic monster, but when I sat down with the director, he kind of just educated me, put me back to the 1954, the original, and we kind of went from there really. And we wanted to kind of encourage that kind of message that it once had into today. So, yeah, I play a lieutenant in the Navy. He's kind of got a bit of a job on his hands, man. But he ends up just almost having just to survive through to get back to his family, and it's kind of how far will you go for the ones that you love kind of thing. And Lizzie plays a hero at the end of the day, a nurse who has to take care of all the casualties and
in the hospital, and having that perspective of on the ground what happens to the people in these cities when disasters happen, and as well as trying to put your child first before you and safest before you, but still do your duty and your job, and trying to stay alive for your husband to come home. All of that.
Right, exactly. Well, his only experience was was the film before Monsters, which he directed, and he was the cameraman. So he shot it, he directed it, he did the special effects, and he shoots in that kind of fashion, so it's it never really felt like he was like, that's the only thing I kind of know, so this is the only way I'm going to approach it, and he works with actors really closely, and we get to improvise a bit here and there, and he kind of searches for kind of naturalistic sort of moments, and so it never really felt like we was making something on a huge scale like Godzilla, it felt like we was doing some sort of independent character-driven drama. And you felt like maybe the natural disaster was like a tsunami or earthquake or a terrorist attack or something that, he had a really interesting way of shooting it. I think you feel that in it. It feels really raw and kind of earthy and natural,
It's so much fun.
It's awesome.
It's like we had the best time watching it with an audience, honestly. Like, it is such a fun film, and what was exciting for me is to see also what all the other actors did, because I think we all play pieces in the puzzle, and Aaron's really the only actor who was able to kind of work with everyone, and it was really cool to see how the actors all elevated what was on the page to the screen, and I was so interested in all those storylines, and then then you forget that you're watching a monster film because you're just like constantly teased about what's happening, and then when you do get the full monster experience, you're just having so much fun, and you're cheering, and it's a fun movie.
Well, he is a scientist, and that's their wheelhouse. Whenever something is unanswerable, as a scientist, there is an answer to every problem, and in a scientific way, and he can't find it. So it's a conundrum that he continually strives to look for the answer to, and it bedevils him. And then he suffers a great loss, and now it destroys him personally. So he is now emotionally and physically and intellectually bound to this quest of finding the answers to it, which are discovered in Godzilla. Well, it was very interesting to be able to present this because shooting the movie in 1954, there was a man in a suit, crushing miniatures. We don't really do that anymore. There are some miniatures, but it's mostly against a green screen, and with a laser pointer, you see where the monster's head would be and where the tail would be, and you kind of mark those moments, and you're looking up in horror. But it's all part of an actor's preparation, our palette is made up of personal experiences and also what we can imagine, and so it's not as difficult as people think it is. This Godzilla honors the original intent of Godzilla, where there are social issues connected to it. And this particular one, it's how much can we challenge Mother Nature before it pushes back and takes back its land and its waters. With the fan anticipation for this film comes responsibility too. So there's a little pressure to be able to deliver and match their expectations, and they're expecting a lot, and we think it delivers quite well. So I think they'll be very happy with it. Well, I think the most attractive element to this whole story was that there was a very strong component to a father-son relationship. So you have that as a character-driven model, but also the sensibility of trying to vanquish this monster. And so the two together don't usually go together. But Gareth Edwards, our director, was very careful in making sure that the interwoven, storylines were smooth, and it works out quite well. I loved Godzilla. I was much more of a Godzilla fan than I was a King Kong fan as a kid. And I think it's just, the Godzilla scared me more, I think. There was something, in King Kong's face, there was something still kind of human-like, with the ears in the right place and the nose and in the face and the eyes. Not with Godzilla. Godzilla was, in and of itself, a monster and total destruction and indestructible. And so, it was exciting. I'm excited thinking about it now.
It was a real surprise when I got the call. There was no part of me ever that thought I'd be asked to direct Godzilla. I mean, it's such an amazing opportunity. He's an icon that I think is recognized throughout the world. Like wherever you go, you can see a silhouette. You go, that's Godzilla. But a lot of people haven't, they have a memory of certain films, and when they were a child, they maybe saw like the more childish, fun Godzilla movies, and the original, the very first one ever, was actually a very serious film. It was all really about the bombs that were dropped on Japan in World War II. And we wanted to go back to that and feel like, it's about time someone made a Godzilla movie for adults that took itself seriously. You have to stop yourself from thinking about it, because if you really comprehend like how crazy it all is, then you probably get paralyzed and you're not able to do your job. So I would try not to think about it, and it was reasonably easier than I thought, in that they drive you in the morning, they drive you straight to the camera, and you don't speak to anybody, and you stand next to the camera, and there's the cameraman, the assistant director, the actors and people like that, and it's just, you only speak all day long, you speak to just like 10 people. And it was the same through the whole movie, and so I let myself be convinced that really I was making a film with 10 people, and all the other people around the set that were doing all these jobs that I have no idea about, they were just watching this more intimate film happening. But it's only when you finish and you do a premiere and you start, promote the film, that you realize like it was a massive movie. Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, when we first talked about doing it in 3D, I was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't sure, because all the films I grew up with loving were 2D films, normal films, and then we did it in post-production. We converted the movie, so we had the most flexibility with all the shots that we were doing, and one by one, as the shots came in, I would see them. it was like, that's the best the film's ever looked. And so I feel like if someone said to me, okay, how should I see the movie? I want the best Godzilla experience I possibly can. I'd be like, you go to IMAX, see it in 3D. Like, we watched it the other day, and I was really blown away. It was really impressive. I think it's like such an immersive experience. It is like evolution. Like, what you do is you do a design, and then that's like your parent, and then you create children, and you change the eye, you change the arm, and you look at them, and you pick the strongest one, and that becomes the new parent. Then you tweak and mutate and evolve, and you just branch out over and over and over until you finally get something where you look at it and you go, you know what, I don't want to change anything. And it took nearly a year to kind of get there finally with the final design.